shortly after moving to Virginia, the city that we lived in said that they're going to be delivering everyone a new big full-size recyclable trash can instead of just a little bin that they normally give us. And I thought that was kind of neat. So a few weeks later, I was out getting the mail and I watched the guy deliver everyone's new big blue trash can on our street. I looked around and he put one in front of every house except ours. And he was already gone, so I realized he must have missed our house. I called the city up the next day. I says, hey, I didn't get my trash can. Can I get one the next couple of days? She says, well, what's your address? And I gave her our address. She says, no, we have here that we delivered one to you yesterday. I said, no, ma'am, he may have checked my house off the list, but we didn't get a trash can. Could we get one in the next couple of days? She says, no, we're going to have to do an investigation. And I said, over a trash can? She says, yeah. And about a week later, they called me back after concluding their evidently extensive investigation. And she told me that they had come to the conclusion that someone had stolen my trash can. And I told her, I said, well, man, why would someone steal my trash can? Is it possible that they just missed my house? And she says, no, so we think someone stole your trash can. We interviewed the dispatcher and the driver, and that's what we come up with. And she said, well, we can get you a new trash can. We just need you to contact the police department, file a police report, and fax us a copy of it. And I said, I'm not calling the police about a trash can I never got. She says, well, the only other way you can get one is to buy a new one, and they're $80. And I said, I'm not buying a new trash can either. And she says, well, those are the only two ways you can get a trash can. I told her, I said, well, those are the only two ways you're telling me I can get a trash can. I'm going to contact my attorney, find out what my rights are. Hung up with her, picked up the phone, contacted our law firm there in Virginia, and it wasn't a long conversation. It was only a trash can situation. But about a couple hours later, after my attorney got the information, contacted the city, my doorbell rings, I open the door, and there's a guy standing there from the city next to a big blue trash can.
I had a cell phone issue, and they, the third time that I sent the cell phone back, you know, the next month when I get my bill, there's a $75 charge on it. So I called them and asked them what the deal was, and they said it had water damage. And I said, no. And they said, well, that's what the warehouse says, and you can't dispute that. So I didn't argue with them. So I called my provider law firm. They wrote a letter on my behalf. And 2 weeks later, I get a letter from the cell phone company telling me I'm going to be reimbursed on my next month's bill, and I was.
I brought my car in to get my air conditioner fixed over the summertime. And it was one of those close to 100-degree days, so I thought it was pretty brilliant. You know, that'll be the perfect day to get my air conditioner fixed. Brought it in, actually got the car back, and I went on the highway, turned on the air conditioner, and the air coming through the vents was literally hotter than the air outside. And you can imagine my excitement, you know, as I went back and, you know, spoke to the manager of the repair shop, and I was surprised to, you know, get the runaround from the manager of the repair shop. So I said, you know, let me go ahead and call my law firm, speak to my attorney, figure out what my rights are in this situation. Spoke to the attorney, hung on the phone. Literally 10 minutes later, got a call back from the attorney. He had already spoken to the manager at the repair shop. In addition to getting to make the necessary repairs, he was able to save me over $250 in labor charges in that one situation. And it's kind of funny, we were laughing with the attorney on the phone, because he said all the gentleman kept saying at the repair shop was, I can't believe this guy called his attorney. You know, I can't believe this guy called his attorney. But when you think about it, most people, they wouldn't even think about calling an attorney for a $200, $300 situation, because the attorney is going to cost them more than that to resolve the issue. But thanks to the prepaid legal membership, we were able to get that situation taken care of.
I bought a product at a department store, and it was defective. A couple days later, I tried to return it. They said since it's no longer a product they have, it's a discontinued product, that they couldn't give me a refund. So I called Prepaid Legal up. They sent a letter on my behalf, and at the end of the week, I get a call from a representative from the company saying, that's not our store policy. We apologize, and we'd like to give you a full refund on the product.
I had a company contact me about ordering some magazines on a trial introductory offer for $35.95. And so I jumped on it. Along with the magazines came a letter. I thought it would be a welcome letter, but indeed it was a bill for $795. So I was pretty upset about that. So I remembered to call my prepaid legal attorney, and they got on the phone with the company. And what I couldn't do with customer service, they were able to resolve the issue for me with their legal department and got my account cleared. I have nothing more to pay. I've never paid anything more than $35, and my magazines are still coming in to this day.
I received notice from my mortgage company that they were about to foreclose. I called my prepaid legal provider law firm, I explained my situation, and through their advice and their counsel, I was able to prevent foreclosure.
Well, we had a company calling our house threatening us over $92.20. And they said that my wife, Tracy, had ordered a product that we had never ordered before. And so eventually they threatened to send our name to a collection agency over $92.20. If I didn't have prepaid legal, I would have never called an attorney at $200 an hour for a $92 problem. But because we had prepaid legal, we called the law firm, and the law firm wrote a cease and desist letter. It says you must cease and desist all contact with our client pursuant to the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. I mean, the letter scared me. I almost wrote myself a check for $92. But of course, we had prepaid legal write that letter. We've never heard from that company again.
I wrote a check and tried to, I should say, and all of a sudden the computer, their cash register kicked it out with an 800 number, simply refusing the check. On the way home, I called that 800 number and found out that I had a checkout with some major store that I'd written 5 months earlier. Found out what my check number was, went home, checked the bank records, found that check had been written and paid 2 days later. I figured, not a problem, I'll just fax over my information to these people and it'll go away. And I did that. They basically told me that wasn't good enough, and she was nasty about it. So I simply said, ma'am, if you can't handle this, I'm going to have to get my attorney involved. And that's when she really got me. She said, yeah. She said, go ahead, you just go ahead and do that. And because I could, I did, and I called our law firm. They made a phone call after they checked my bank records, resolved my issue. I got a call from the vice president of finance from that company, from their home office, apologizing profusely and telling me I could write a check anywhere I wanted to from that point forwards.
My wife and I had a rental property, and at the time it was vacant. And we were paying about $30 in electricity bills, and that's not that big of a deal. The challenge is this particular month it was $347. We figured there must be something wrong. So my wife called the energy company and talked to them, and they said, well, go ahead and pay the bill, and then we'll just send someone out to check it. Well, that wasn't an amicable solution for us, but the following month, because there was no resolution for the previous month, the bill was $850. And we called prepaid legal. They wrote a simple letter for us, and it resolved the entire bill for us at no charge to us.
I had a credit card charge where I was double billed, and it took me a few months to notice that it was the same thing. And when I did, I called the credit card company and asked them to remove that charge. And they told me there was nothing that they would do because I'd waited too long. So I called my law firm. It was actually the first time I'd ever used the service, and I called the law firm expecting that they would tell me the same thing because, of course, the credit card company had to be right. And the law firm said, the attorney said, no, you've got plenty of time, and we can write a letter for you and get that money returned. And a letter from the law firm got my money back.
My husband had been on vacation up in Eastern Washington, and when we got the cell phone bill the month after he got home, there were some long-distance charges for phone calls made from Canada, but he had never been to Canada. And I called the cell phone company to get the charges removed, and they said, we're sorry, the Canadian tower was stronger than that in the United States, so you're responsible. I got my provider law firm involved. They wrote a letter on our behalf, and the cell phone charges were taken off of our bill.
I had a home in foreclosure, and I had 3 children, and I didn't know, though, what to do. The attorneys wrote one letter to pull my home out of foreclosure, and so I was blessed to be able to stay in my home and to keep a roof over my children's head.
We received a letter from our homeowners insurance informing us that our agent could no longer sell that policy and that they were going to cancel our homeowners insurance. We called our attorneys at Prepaid Legal Services, and they informed us that the insurance company could not do that they needed to give us an alternative. And as a result of that counsel and direction from our attorneys, we saved a couple of $1,000s, and we would have a much worse policy than we had, and it would have cost us a lot more money. So our Prepaid Legal membership saved us quite a bit.
A hotel chain that I had booked to stay at 3 months prior to the convention. I literally called them to cancel that out and decided to stay at the host property. Now, this was 3 months before I was going to stay there. And so 3 months went by, went to the convention, came home, thought everything was okay, and then ended up getting a $400 and some odd charge checking my online banking from a hotel that I did not stay at. Called them up, and unfortunately, I got the runaround game. They said, well, hey, look, if you don't have a confirmation or a cancellation number, we can't do anything about refunding this. Just so happens, after getting their supervisor and the supervisor, I finally picked up the phone, called my attorneys. They asked me to simply explain in writing what happened. I explained it to them. They fired off a letter, and then the hotel chain did what they should have done in the first place.
The state wanted to widen the road, and they wanted to buy an acre of my land, and they made me an offer that I could refuse. And after going back and forth and countering several times, they just didn't want to budge. So I called the provider law firm, and I said, I know they can take it through eminent domain, but aren't they supposed to pay me fair market value? And they said, yes, they are. And I said, what are my options? They said, you can accept it, you can counter it, or you can reject it. Well, since I countered already, I said, what happens if I reject it? And they said, they will sue you for the land. Well, as a prepaid legal member, I knew that I had protection, and I said, you know, jury, my peers will decide. And they said, that's right. And I said, that's great. So I hung up the phone. I called the state, and I said, I think I'd like for you to sue me. And they didn't know what to do, you know, and after several phone calls from superiors and whatever, they agreed to pay the fair market price, which paid for my membership for a very, very long time with one phone call to Prepaid Legal.